let's get the Barries to calm it. Randy Orton celebration. Any interest in that?
None whatsoever.
No. Okay. Well, he tweeted about it, which I thought was quite interesting. Big news in the Gallatron household. The SPL. Any other kind of comments you want to make? It's an interesting league. It's a league where legitimately anybody can beat anybody else, and I include Celtic in that at this point in time. But I mean, it is shaping up a little bit. We should also mention Zaluska getting attacked.
Yeah, apparently it was another Scottish Premiership player that did it.
Yeah, there's rumours that it's a Premiership player. It's just...
I don't get this, right? You're not allowed to say who the player was. Why should they come out and say that he's another Premiership footballer? Surely that's a bit like, you can tell us that much, but you can't tell us anything else. It's like, why? When would that ever usually happen, that they would give the attackers occupation?
Well, the media are saying police would not confirm reports that another Scottish Premiership player was involved in the incident.
Yeah, and involved in the incident also doesn't necessarily mean that he's the one who attacked him.
So it's just rumour. It's just rumour then.
The jackets.
It's just rumour.
What is it about Ashton Lane? What is it about Ashton Lane and Celtic? I mean, any time I've been up Ashton Lane, I've always thought it was full of, soft West End types. But it seems to be when Celtic players go up there, it's, they get battered, Ashton Lane's supposed to be one of the more salubrious spots in Glasgow, but that was just thought I'd mention that.
Yep, we used the word salubrious on the 90MinuteCynic podcast. Don't you worry about that. Just moving away from, we're kind of rounded up here. Moving away from the Scottish Premier League, it was a disappointing weekend in Serie A, wasn't it, Chris?
No, it was a fantastic weekend in Serie A. The Juventus result, Chris, can you remind me? I never managed to catch it.
It was a 1-1 draw. Pogba's, joking aside, Pogba's goal was excellent.
Do you know what it was? It was excellent. Who did they draw away to?
Sassuolo.
Serie A minnows, Chris.
Well, I wouldn't get on your high horse too quickly.
Fiorentina got gubbed 2-0 by Lazio. I don't know if you watched that game.
I didn't see that myself.
It was really frustrating. Fiorentina, at times, it's almost like they're trying to be far too flamboyant. They look as if they're missing out on a penalty box striker who would take them to the next level.
Yeah.
That was kind of evident at the weekend. They had a lot of the ball, especially in the second half, created a lot of chances, but they'd never particularly looked as if they were going to make the breakthrough. I think they really need somebody who could put the foot in the ball and just...
That's a third straight win for Lazio. What are we expecting from them? Anything really?
No, Lazio are kind of... My expectations at the start of the season would have been, mid-table, kind of maybe pushing for a UEFA Cup slot. They're starting to look a bit better, but so are certain other teams. Milan as well. I mean, Milan are starting to creep up the table. They're only, I think, a point behind the Champions League places.
They are currently fourth.
Fourth, yeah, yep.
Sampdoria still beaten. Start to the season, they were 2-0 up at the weekend and ended up drawing 2-2, but still unbeaten.
Sampdoria, yep. They're the only time I've seen them this season was the derby with Genoa, and it wasn't very good. But going back to Milan, a guy that we've slagged quite a lot this season, Honda.
5 goals he's got so far.
He was playing. He played really quite well at the weekend. He tends to drift in and out of games. That's the big problem I've got with him. But
yeah. Verona missed some chances. Verona had a few chances they really should have taken.
They do. I still think Milan are well short of competing at the top end of the table. But credit where it's due, they're doing a lot better now than I certainly thought they would.
Yeah, Roma won. Moving on, Torino. Roma won 3-0. Destro.
Great header. Did you see the goal?
Terrific goal. We got another one from Totti as well. Yeah, I mean, Totti named his all-time 11, Roma 11, and he named Garcia as the manager.
Did he? I haven't seen that.
He named Garcia as the manager, which I think goes to show obviously what respect he's got for him, and
Sure.
really maybe Roma can do it this season.
I genuinely think they can, aye.
But you're basing that on Totti's all-time 11 Roma selection, that they can do it this season.
He chose the manager they have just now, Chris, as the manager, his favourite manager of all time.
Yeah, that's a poor reason to think that Roma can do it this season. Totti has a high opinion of his current employer.
What I would say is, I know I jokingly criticise him, but what Totti says is usually pretty damn right. Am I right, Chris?
I base my entire life on what Totti says.
Absolutely. Put your tattoo away. So just looking at, a couple of the fixture results. Torino beat Udinese. If Quagliarelli's scoring against you, give up, frankly. Sampdoria drew, as you said, Lee. Parma get beat by Atalanta.
Bottom of the league.
Bottom of the league, yeah. So it's just a point difference now at the top of the league.
Don't forget, you need to mention I don't know if you enjoyed the last 10 minutes of the Inter-Napoli game last night.
Very similar to the Liverpool and QPR game. It was not very good for a good 80 minutes, 85 minutes, and then just exploded in the last 5 or 10. Vidic should not be playing football anymore, or at least not in Serie A. I've never known a guy. I've seen him play 4 matches for Inter, and he doesn't know anything about positioning.
He does look kind of like a fish out of water, a wee bit. He made some nice blocks at times last night, but in terms of positioning, as you say, it doesn't look as if he's at the races. It's almost like they signed him because of his name, because of his reputation, as opposed to what he can bring to the table, because he's been on that downward spiral at Man United for a season or so as well. So,
yeah,
but
absolutely.
It looks as if it just doesn't look as if it's working out for Mazzarri at all.
Inter and Napoli overall, could a defeat have cost could it have cost him his job if he'd lost that game?
Mazzarri?
Yeah.
Yeah. The question would have certainly have been asked. It could very well have been. As I say, I don't see it working out there. I just think that I thought, as I said last week, or the last podcast, I thought they'd done quite well in the transfer market, but nothing's clicking, and I just don't see them being able to kick on and compete with the top two. Napoli as well, Benitez, it's just they don't seem to be able to put together any sort of run. There's no consistency there.
Is he just not suited? Because he's taken a squad and Callion's playing. I mean, the 2 goals yesterday were fantastic. But why is Hamšík not playing the way he was a couple of seasons ago?
I don't know. I mean, it's as if he's gone a bit stale. I mean, a few seasons ago, when you had Lavezzi and Cavani and Hamšík, some of the football they played was terrific. It was fantastic to watch. Yeah. The two of them have got their moves not particularly worked out, if we're being perfectly honest. But Hamšík was always linked with moves away, and he looked electric, a few short seasons ago. Now it just looks as if he's gone stale. A move would probably benefit him, and it might benefit Napoli, because
Celtic a big fee for him, to be fair.
Yeah, they definitely would. They would be able to command a big fee, and the two of them look as if they're stuck in a rut. Higuain as well, you're not 2-1 to West Brom. Higuain as well, he's still a fantastic striker and stuff like that, but it just doesn't seem to be happening.
Yeah,
if you know what I mean.
Yeah, absolutely. If you look at, what if this was that? Could Mertens step into that role that Hamšík plays, or? I'd argue Mertens is more important to Napoli than Hamšík at times, creatively, especially last season. I think Mertens scored a lot more important goals. I mean, that might be controversial with amongst Napoli fans, but I feel as if Mertens is a more important player for Napoli. Mertens is a more important player than Hamšík for Napoli just now. Certainly a terrific player. He was one of the best players for Belgium at the World Cup as well. Absolutely. Louis, did you watch any other football this weekend? Did you catch any the Spanish league? Or?
No, I didn't. I didn't see much football this weekend other than the Celtic game, if I'm honest. But I did have a look at Germany and Borussia Dortmund. their kind of bad start to the season has continued, and they are now 3 or 4 points from the bottom. Dortmund. I think they're currently maybe 5th or 6th from bottom just now, but in terms of points, they're only like 3 points away from the bottom spot. And I was reading an article today, and it was kind of was it Rafa? Aye, I think it was him, and he was talking about how kind of Klopp is being questioned now. About whether he's maybe taking them too far, and Klopp had come out with a few comments saying that Dortmund's play didn't make sense anymore. Like the way they were playing just now, it just didn't make any sense and things like this. And they're really in a kind of bad rut just now. And it's kind of interesting. I mean, obviously, Chris, you're a huge fan of Klopp, have been for years. Do you think he possibly has? Is it time maybe for him to move on? I don't know.
I mean, it could be time for a change. You sometimes get managers who are in a job just that bit too long. Anyone who's suggesting that Klopp isn't a good manager because, and let's be honest, Dortmund are performing way too poorly. They should be doing much better than in 14th technically on 7 points? 7 points, there we go.
But they've got a -4 goal difference for a team that was free-flowing and, in terms of goal scoring the last couple of years. -4 in October is crazy.
It is, but you can't, and we talked earlier about in the Scottish League about remembering what managers have done. Winning back-to-back titles, any team that isn't Bayern Munich winning back-to-back Bundesliga titles is a huge achievement. The fact that Klopp did that on what was effectively a shoestring budget at Dortmund, or relative to Bayern, was a fantastic achievement. And the football we had them playing, getting to latter stages of Champions League football as well, with a budget far smaller than any other teams competing for that competition. So Klopp is a great manager. Yep, he's not doing it just now, and that's the big question. Do you hold off and wait and see, can he pull it back? Or is it time for a new club and a new challenge?
One thing I'd seen, is it Rummenigge is he high up at Bayern?
Yeah.
Have I got that right? I'm sure it was him that had commented, it's in the same article if you find it. He said how the kind of hierarchy or the kind of top people at Bayern were going to have a conversation about Marco Reus and whether it's time
to cash in
to try and get him. And they said, which I don't know if it was suggested this way or not, but they said they'll make a decision, and that was a quote from him. And to me, that sounded kind of like how it's went. That's kind of how it's went with Bayern and Dortmund in recent years. It seems to be, if Bayern really want someone, make a decision that they're going for them, they will not stop until they get them.
Yeah. There's not much that Dortmund can do about it, and that's something. And that's a parallel maybe with Celtic as well. In that over the years we've recently lost a lot of our best players. Dortmund, year after year, have had their best player removed from them.
Yeah.
Sometimes by or in most cases by their biggest rival. They should still be good enough to be doing better than they are just now. But, I mean, that's hard. I mean, losing your best players, you can expect that. But year after year after year, Klopp's had to deal with losing his star players and trying to deal with that.
Gal, Thomas Tuchel, still not got a job.
I'm telling you, the Tuch man. At the point to kind of back Chris up as well, Dortmund also have had a lot of injuries. You know, Gundogan, who before he got injured was one of the best passers in Europe. I'm sure he'll get back. Hopefully,
he came back at the weekend.
Yeah, I know, that's what I'm saying. He came back. Bender's just back on the bench. You know, they have had injuries. Oh dear. The point is, I think Klopp's just stayed there a little bit too long. And that's not. I'm not saying that, you know, he's a bad manager, because he's clearly not. It'd be an interesting, you know, if you know, come January, you know, if Arsenal are doing terribly, you know. they're just not going to get rid of him, I guess. But at the same time,
never get rid of Wenger either, will they?
But if Klopp was a manager who was, maybe he decided to throw the towel in at that point, just thinking maybe I've taken them as far